Putin ignored every warning. Now Russia's entire army is facing total destruction. The warnings were clear. End this war. Pull back your forces, or face consequences you won't survive. But Moscow didn't back down. And now, everything is collapsing. This isn't speculation. This isn't propaganda. This is what's happening in real time on the ground right now. Day 1511 of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, and the numbers coming out of the front lines are nothing short of catastrophic for Putin's military machine. Stay with me, because what's unfolding right now is bigger than most people realize. Let me take you back to where this really started accelerating. For months, actually for years, the West issued warning after warning. Pull back, de-escalate. There is a line here, and if you cross it, the consequences will be severe. NATO expanded, weapons flowed, intelligence was shared. The US and its European allies didn't just talk, they started acting. And here's what the warnings looked like in practice. Germany delivered Patriot missile systems directly to Ukraine. Britain announced new ballistic missile development specifically for Ukraine's defense. The entire European defense architecture started shifting, not toward peace negotiations, but towards sustained, long-term military support for Kyiv. This wasn't diplomacy anymore. This was a line in the sand. Recent months have seen several rounds of US-brokered negotiations fail to bring the warring parties closer to agreement. And why? Because Russia wasn't negotiating in good faith. It was stalling, buying time, while quietly launching thousands of drones every single night at Ukrainian cities. Think about that for a second. You're supposedly in ceasefire talks, and you're simultaneously deploying over 7,700 kamikaze drones in a single day. This was never about peace. This was about survival. Russia's survival as an aggressor. So what did Moscow do when the West tightened the screws? They doubled down. Putin's rhetoric got louder. The Kremlin kept talking about special military operation goals. Russian state media kept painting a picture of inevitable victory. No retreat, no compromise. We fight on our terms, was the message. Thick skin, no surrender. But here's what's really happening beneath that bravado. One theory is that Putin genuinely believed the West would fracture, that NATO would collapse under political pressure, that Europe would blink first because of energy costs and economic strain. He was betting on division. Another possibility is that he believed Ukraine would simply run out of men and ammunition before Russia did. It's a brutal calculus, a war of attrition where the bigger country grinds the smaller one down. But there's a third, darker explanation. And this is where things start to get very interesting. Putin may have simply miscalculated, not just strategically, but mathematically. Because the bleeding happening right now isn't sustainable for Russia, and the numbers prove it. The response wasn't immediate, but when it came, it was brutal. Ukrainian drones struck 3 Lukoil drilling rigs on the Caspian Sea, a Buk M3 missile system in Luhansk Oblast, and a Russian army warehouse in Kherson Oblast. That's not a small-scale raid. And now that's a coordinated campaign reaching deep into Russian-controlled territory and even into Russia itself. Multiple Storm Shadow missiles struck the Kremilin factory in Bryansk, one of Russia's largest military microelectronics producers according to the Ukrainian General Staff. You hit the microelectronics, you slow the weapons production, you choke the war machine at its source. And then came the oil strikes. At least 40% of Russia's oil export capacity was halted following Ukrainian drone attacks on all 3 of Russia's major western oil export ports, including Novorossiysk on the Black Sea and Primorsk and Ust-Luga on the Baltic Sea. Let that land for a moment. 40% of Russia's oil exports gone in one campaign. Russia funds this war with oil money. Hit the oil, hit the war. It's that simple. And now let's talk about what's happening on the actual front lines, because this is where the real story is. In the last 24 hours alone, 125 combat engagements were recorded. Russia launched 1 missile strike, 70 airstrikes, dropped 246 guided aerial bombs, and deployed over 10,000 kamikaze drones. You might think, that sounds like Russia is winning, right? They're throwing everything at Ukraine. But here's what's really happening. That volume of attack is a sign of desperation, not dominance. When you're winning a conventional war, you don't need to carpet bomb a country with 10,000 drones every 24 hours. That's what you do when your ground troops can't break through. Russia's military casualties have now crossed 1 million killed and wounded. And now, according to a late February 2026 estimate shared by a highly informed former senior Western official, 1 million casualties. They prepared for a long war, not for total breakdown. Russia's defense ministry actually declared on April 1st that its forces have completed the liberation of Luhansk Oblast, of which Ukraine controlled just 0.2%. That's not a victory announcement. That's desperate spin. They're celebrating taking 0.2% of a region they already claim to control. If you're finding this useful, hit like and subscribe. This channel covers the real story, not the official one. This is where it gets really interesting. Because Ukraine isn't just holding, it's starting to push back. February 2026 became the first month since 2024 when Ukraine regained more territory than it lost. That's a turning point. A psychological shift as much as a military one. And they did something else. Something that completely changed the calculus of this war. Ukraine cracked the drone problem. Russia has been launching Iranian-designed Shahed drones every single night. These things are cheap, they're slow, they're expendable. And Russia was using them to absolutely hammer Ukrainian cities, power grids, and infrastructure. Traditional air defense, Patriots, NASAMS, they work, but they're expensive. Shooting $1 million missile at a $30,000 drone is a losing economic equation, so Ukraine innovated. Japan's Terra drone company partnered with Ukrainian engineers to develop the Terra A-1 interceptor drone, a system specifically designed to hunt and destroy Shahed-type drones. It reaches speeds of up to 300 kilometers per hour, and easily overtaking the typical cruising speed of a Shahed. It covers a range of up to 35 kilometers, costs around $2,000 to $3,000, and uses electric propulsion for a low noise and heat signature. Think about that asymmetry. Russia spends $30,000 to $40,000 per Shahed. Ukraine kills it with a $3,000 interceptor. As of early January 2026, Ukraine had ramped up production to 1,500 FPV-based interceptor drones per day, specifically targeting Shahed-type threats. Per day. Ukraine is now manufacturing these faster than Russia can launch Shaheds. Despite multiple waves of attacks averaging hundreds of drones per night, less than 10% of the Shaheds managed to hit their targets. Russia just lost its most effective cheap weapon, and it doesn't have a plan B. Here's what this means on the global stage, and this is big. The West didn't just warn Russia. The West rewired the entire support system for Ukraine. Britain said it will develop a new ballistic missile specifically for the defense of Ukraine. Germany is supplying Patriot systems. Romania and Ukraine are now launching joint weapons production with EU backing. Japan, which historically avoids direct military entanglements, is partnered with Ukrainian engineers building cutting-edge drone defense technology. This isn't temporary. This is a permanent shift in how Europe and the world views this conflict. NATO's confidence is rising. The weapons are flowing faster, and Russia is losing control of the narrative. Ukrainian President Zelensky has confirmed that Ukrainian drone interceptor teams and equipment have been deployed to Jordan to help counter Iranian Shahed drones threatening U.S. Military assets in the Middle East. The country that was supposed to collapse under Russian pressure 3 years ago is now exporting its military expertise to protect American soldiers in the Gulf. You have to ask yourself, how does Putin spin that to his people? The warning wasn't empty. It was a preview of what organized collective resistance looks like when it's fully committed. But don't get comfortable. Because when a leader is cornered, the danger doesn't go away. It multiplies. Both Russia and Ukraine accused each other of violating the orthodox Easter ceasefire. During the declared truce period, over 10,000 violations were recorded, including 119 assault actions and more than 9,000 kamikaze drone strikes. A ceasefire that no one is keeping, peace talks that go nowhere, and a front line that's still on fire. But one theory is that Putin is buying time, waiting for political shifts in the West, hoping that support for Ukraine cracks before Russia does. Another possibility is that Russian military leadership knows the war is lost strategically, but no one has the courage to tell Putin. And so the machine keeps grinding forward, consuming men and money and equipment, because stopping it would require someone to stand up and say, "This is over." But here's the darker explanation. Putin may believe that if Russia's army is truly facing destruction, the only logical escalation left is a nuclear card, not necessarily used, but threatened, waived, to force the world to the negotiating table on his terms. This is where things stand right now. The front is holding. The weapons are flowing. The drone war is shifting in Ukraine's favor. While Russia's economy is bleeding, its oil exports are disrupted. Its best weapons are being shot down by $3,000 interceptors built in a Japan-Ukraine partnership. Russia was warned. Russia didn't listen. And now the cost is being paid in real time. In manpower, in money, in credibility, in global standing. 1 million Russian military casualties. Think about that number, 1 million. And still, the Kremlin says it's winning. Ukraine is exporting its drone expertise to the Middle East. Europe is building new ballistic missiles for Kyiv. Japan is engineering drone killers with Ukrainian engineers. NATO is more unified than it has been in decades. The warning wasn't empty, it was a countdown. And the real question isn't whether Russia is losing. The real question is, how far does this collapse go before someone inside the Kremlin finally makes a decision the world can live with? Because right now, that decision isn't happening. And if this continues, the consequences could be far bigger than anyone is ready for. That's the story. Watch this space.